All right. All right. Well, welcome everybody. You are here at the 2025 State Open Space Funding Info Session. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Amy Patterson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Land Conservation Council, or CLCC. With me is Ricky Bentley, who is CLCC's Program Manager, and helped to put this all together. CLCC is the umbrella for Connecticut's 120 or so land trusts and the communities that they or you serve. And we provide a host of services for land trusts, including technical and financial assistance, training and education. We serve as a convener and offer networking opportunities, and we advocate for land conservation at the Capitol. I also have the honor of serving as the chair of the Open Space Review Board, which is a state advisory board set up under the statute. And we work with Connecticut Deep's Land Acquisition and Management Office to advance the Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Grant Program, the Urban Green and Community Garden Program, which are the primary focus of tonight's discussion, as well as some other state land conservation programs. As you probably are aware, earlier this month, Governor Lamont announced the recipients of the 2025 OSWA and UGCG awards, and also, we've got somebody here, and also launched the next grant round for each program. And again, each year we partner with DEEP to offer these info sessions for those that need a refresher on the grant programs and those that need an introduction to them. And so tonight, I'm delighted to welcome Lindsay Soar, who's the Director of the Land Acquisition and Management Office at DEEP. And she runs these grant programs, and she'll walk you through them and some other grant programs tonight. Just quickly, some housekeeping. Please stay muted and turn your video off until the Q&A session at the end. During Lindsay's presentation, we encourage you to add your questions to the chat. And then after her presentation, we'll run through those questions. And you can also raise your hand and we'll call on you to unmute. It's a small group here tonight, so we can have a conversation. As you know, I'm recording the program, and we'll also have Lindsay's PowerPoint available for you and others that may want to review it. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Lindsay, who will introduce herself and present on these programs. Thanks, Lindsay. And thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, so as Amy said, Lindsay Soar, I'm the Office Director for Land Acquisition and Management at DEEP. We're essentially the real estate office for the agency, and on top of running some of these open space grant programs, we also do all the acquisition for the state for DEEP, and some other programs as well, but those are the two primary open space ones that we work on. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to try to share. We'll see if it comes up properly. Is that good now, Amy?
Yes, you've got the full, yeah, you're all set. And I did just ask folks to introduce themselves in the chat just by listing the organization or the town that you're here representing. That always helps us to get to know people. And also, please ask your questions. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Whoops. Hold on, I went back to the wrong view.
You're good here, Lindsay. It all looks good on our end.
Okay, I can do it from here. My presenter view went away, but that's fine. Okay, so the first program that I'm going to talk about is DEEP's Open Space Grant Program. And this is primarily for municipalities and nonprofit organizations, but also water companies apply for this and can get funding. It's for protecting open space. So if you want to purchase a property for open space, or you want to purchase a conservation easement from a private entity, you can apply for this grant program. The maximum grant amount. So if you're a municipality, nonprofit, or water company, and you're not in a community in need, your highest will be the 65% of the fair market value of the property based on an appraisal of the property. If you are a municipality, nonprofit, or water company, and the land that you're looking to protect is within an environmental justice community, a distressed municipality, or a targeted investment community, and those are all defined. We can dive a little deeper into that if people are curious, but those are all defined in statute by the state of Connecticut. So you can find links to that in our frequently asked questions that's on our website. There's more information in all of our materials that describe, what those actually are. But if the land is located in one of those communities, you would get 75% of the fair market value of the property. So that's the highest that you can get. There are occasionally years where, the funding is lower and we can't give everybody the highest, but typically in recent years, we've been able to give everybody 65 or 75% of the fair market value. And then new in the last couple of years, this round that we just announced was the first round that we did this. The statutes were changed for this program to allow incidental costs to be reimbursed for those communities in need. So those environmental justice communities, targeted investment communities. And that would include survey costs and legal costs and appraisal costs. So if you are protecting land in one of those communities, what you would do is estimate, what would be those costs. And when you apply for the application, those costs are included, in your application amount that you're requesting. And it will be reimbursed with the cost of the property when we put together a grant agreement. So we'll ask for invoices for the survey, for the legal costs, and for the appraisal. So we're paying out what you've paid towards those incidental costs. Hoping this works. Let's see. So when you are applying for it and you're looking at a property that's within one of these communities, this is the map that our materials will take you to. And as you can see, anything that's in orange, the colors are a little bit of a struggle, but anything that's in orange or pink, either pink, would qualify for an area that's an environmental justice community or distressed municipality. So those areas are where you could get the 75%. There's a lot of communities that you wouldn't think that have an environmental justice community. So definitely check the map when you're looking at applying for this. Now I have to get back to, okay. In order to get through the process and to score for the OSWA process, you have to fill out, areas of information in the application process. So there's four main areas. There's information about the administrative and the community support. So we want to see that you've, reached out in your community, that this is supported by, local leaders, that this is something that the local community really wants to see. We want to make sure that you've, aligned with local state plans. We want to see mapping. We want to see some of the kind of legal work behind the property as well. Then there's also public access and outdoor recreation. So, one of the big things for this program is when it gets protected using this funding, we put a conservation easement on the property, in perpetuity. And so that's protecting the conservation values, but also public access to those sites. So we want to see, how is this site going to be publicly accessible? Is there going to be fishing access? Is there going to be boating access? Is there going to be a hiking trail? Is there going to be hunting access? What's the recreational use of this site? We want to see public outreach, and then we want to see connectivity, trail connectivity and greenway connectivity to other properties, other protected land in the region. And then the next one would be environmental justice and equity. So there's some, plans to align with in that section. There's community impact, and then we want to know, is this accessible by, public transportation? Is this close to affordable housing, and can people walk to the site? Those are the types of things we want to see in that section. And then the last is its connection to the natural world. So we want to see climate change and natural resources. We want to see, is this a core part of a core forest? Is this good for drinking water protection? Does this protect farmland soils? And, are there specific habitats within this property that you're looking to protect? All of these things would, give you a cumulative score for where you rank within the other properties that come in through the application process. One of the big things for this, which I mentioned earlier, is in order for us to understand how much money you can get based on the fair market value, we need appraisals when we apply. So if you're going to put in an application and the deadline is November 3rd and you have a property in mind, I would start talking to appraisers now, because they get booked up, and there's fewer and fewer, unfortunately, appraisers across the state. But what we need is one yellow book appraisal, which is a little bit higher level than a typical appraisal for a property. And we also need an appraisal review for the property. So that would be an appraiser looks at the appraisal that your appraiser did and confirms that it's compliant with the standards that we're looking for. Through this program since 1998, we've given out almost 190 million to protect almost 50,000 acres. So it's a well-used, well-loved program. We have money right now, and so the hope is, let's get as many projects as we can in the pipeline. Let's protect more land while we have funding available for this program. Primary contact, you can always reach out to me, but Allison Clark is the primary contact for this program. She's been working on it for 10 to 12 years now, and so she knows the ins and outs. She can answer all your questions. And, if there's a complicated site, we will, talk about it and get back to you with any input that we need. An additional program that runs, it's kind of adjacent to our open space program, is the Urban Green and Community Garden Grant Program. So this is for nonprofits or municipalities, and it's for those, communities in need. So distressed municipality, target investment community, and environmental justice community. And those nonprofits or municipalities have to be within one of those areas to apply for this program. This is to help restore urban, public community gardens and green spaces. We've had a wide range of project types, anything from building a, small recreational trail, to putting in a giant community garden, to putting in rain gardens and bioswales, native plantings. As long as there's kind of like a passive use of the site, this funding can help. We also say that if you're doing a larger project, so say you're doing a bigger park project and you're working on something that has some more infrastructure, that this program can fund like the passive section of that park. So if you're putting in basketball courts or a tennis court, or you're doing like a multi-use paved trail, but on the edge of it you need to plant trees and vegetation, and you need to put drainage and rain gardens, this funding can fund that portion of the project. So it's kind of an add-on to larger projects, or it can fund entire projects if they fit within the scope. Eligible expenses, we often pay for plant materials, we pay for tools, small features like benches, if you need rental equipment to get it to happen, or you need professional design, as long as the grant will include some construction and professional design, we can pay for some professional services as well. It does have a 50% match requirement, but we're pretty flexible in what qualifies. So as I said before, if you're doing a larger infrastructure project, expenses from that larger infrastructure project, we will count as match. We want to see these projects happen on the ground, so we're pretty flexible. Donated materials and services, and then volunteer labor. There's a rate within the frequently asked questions that we use, but all of those things can count as match. Application requirements, it's a really straightforward, pretty simple application, especially compared to our open space program, which has a much more extensive application process. We want to make sure this is owned by the person applying, or the partner who is applying has a relationship with the owner, meaning the municipality or the nonprofit that's working on it. We need a brief project description that talks about the community need, some sort of drawing to show site plan designs. We're pretty flexible in that. It doesn't have to be a professional drawing. We just need something to understand what the project is going to look like. And then we need budget information, and support letters. Those are the primary things that we're requiring in these applications. It's maybe 2 pages, and I think if you're, sitting down and have the information in front of you, you could probably work on it in a couple hours and finish it to send in to us. This program is much smaller, but I think there's room to grow. We have never gotten to the threshold of the amount of money that we can spend for this program. And so since 2007, $3.5 million to eligible cities and towns. Like I said, projects from all different scopes. This year we have a large trail project that's going in, and then we have a really small, tiny community garden project that's come in for this. Stephen Perry from our office is the primary on this grant program. He's doing a great job. He's relatively new to our office, but he's doing a great job managing this program, and he's very good for questions if it's something that you need. And then I want to talk about some additional federal funding that we have that comes through our office and goes through our open space program. So the Highlands Conservation Act, it's funding through the Fish and Wildlife Service. Municipalities and nonprofits can get some of this funding, but the project must be within the Highlands boundary. So I'll show the map of that later. And then we don't require additional applications for it, but you would indicate it on your OSWA grant application, and then it gets reviewed by staff, and if it qualifies and if it's raises to the level of getting funding for this program, it can be selected and combined with our open space funding to get 90% of the project cost, which is an exciting opportunity for organizations to have much less match to meet for doing conservation work. The primary program priorities, which align pretty well with our open space program, safeguarding water supplies, forest and wildlife protection, outdoor recreation, and the one that's kind of additional, we do some agricultural conservation through our open space program, but this one has a larger focus on agricultural resources. So this is the boundary. It's primarily the northwest part of the state. Luckily, in the last few years, the federal government has allowed us to expand the boundary. So we are slowly expanding the boundary to the east. So in the next few years, we're hoping that more and more communities will be pulled into this program. We can go all the way, probably not south, but we can go east quite a ways, all the way to and a little bit past the Connecticut River once we expand the boundaries. But we have some work to do to get there before we've expanded. So at this point, these are the communities that qualify. So if there's a project you have in one of these communities, or if you have a project that's adjacent to these communities, let us know and we can talk to you about this program. Connecticut's received quite a bit of money from this since 2004 and conserved about 7,000 acres through it. Matt Starr from our office is the primary contact for this. You can also reach out to me or my colleague Allison, who manages the OSWA program, and we can get you more information about Highlands as well. And then I want to talk about one additional funding source that is kind of brand new. We're just about finished signing the documents to make it official, probably within the next couple weeks. But funds from there's a case, US versus General Electric, that had damages from something that General Electric did. And so there's a pot of money that is going to be available for conservation through this what's called Housatonic NRD funding. It's going to be very similar to how Highlands works. It can be municipalities or nonprofits, and it has to be in that region. No application. If there are projects that qualify that come in through OSWA, we will send them to the trustees of this funding, which is DEEP, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and NOAA, and they will rank the projects and then pick the ones that will get funding for this program. Again, it can be combined with OSWA up to 90% of the purchase cost. So the funding priorities are slightly different. This funding, they're really looking to safeguard the Housatonic and its tributaries. They want to see recreational access, particularly water access, if that's a possibility. And they want to see riparian protection, and they want to make sure that the future management will continue these things moving forward. So this is a region, it's a little hard to read because it's not, I don't have it in a form where you can see all the towns. But if you're generally in this region, please reach out. We can talk about what this looks like and at least indicate it on your application if you're applying for OSWA, and we will take a look at your property and see if it fits within this region. And then I wanted to bring up some other related DEEP grant programs. My office does not manage these grant programs, but these are other ones that a lot of land trusts and municipalities consider for conservation work, restoration work, various other projects that they're doing. The top one is hopefully going to come out this fall. It's tied to federal funding, but it's going to be land acquisition and restoration funding for communities to use on the ground, either for acquisition projects similar to our OSWA program or habitat restoration. The second one is the Connecticut Recreational Trails Program. They are also hoping to open around this fall, but that can be used for it can be used for trail acquisition. It has to be tied to trails, or trail planning, trail education, and trail construction projects. The third one is Forest Legacy and Community Forest. Those are both programs through our forestry division that do land protection and land acquisition. I will say they take a lot longer than some of the others, even though a lot of people think our open space program takes a long time. Those ones take even longer sometimes. But they can be an avenue to get additional funding for conservation as well. The fourth one is our Brownfield grant, which has been used in conjunction with open space funding. So for example, we had a land trust who had an old farm dump that was on a property, and through our open space program, we can't close if there's significant contamination on a site. And so this site got money through that Brownfield grant to do a cleanup of the site prior to closing on our open space grant program. So they can be used together, and I'm hoping more and more projects will be able to take advantage of that funding prior to coming to us. We also have a variety of urban forestry grants. There's one that's open right now. I think it's called Community Trees, but it can be used it depends on the program, but most of those are in, EJ, environmental justice communities, similar communities in need, like I was talking about before. We also have an aquatic invasive species grant. That one just got announced, I think, in the fall, so I'm not sure when their next round is coming out. But if you have a lake that has extensive invasive species, you can apply for this grant to get some treatment money, to do planning, that kind of thing. We also have the Clean Water Fund that has what's called 319 grants. Those could potentially pair with open space funding depending on the project. So it's worth a look at some of the information on those. And then last, we have the Climate Resilience Fund, which I don't know when the next round will open or when they will have dedicated funding for it, but it's something to keep an eye on and think about when they do announce. And that's all I have. So I'm happy to answer questions. Maybe what I'll do is stop sharing and then. Whoop, I can't hear you, Amy.
That's because I was muted. So we have one question in the chat that I can see, but this is such a small group. I really encourage you all to, if you want to turn your videos on and you can just, raise your hand and we can call on you if questions arise as Lindsay is talking. The other thing I want to do, since we have plenty of time, is I will share my screen and just introduce you to or remind you of some of CLCC's grant programs. And those that relate to acquisition are complementary to the OSWA program. So definitely want you to be aware of those. But the only question comes from Tom from the Avon Land Trust, and he asks Lindsay, can Avon get included in Highlands since we're between Simsbury and Farmington?
Yes, that's a great question. I will say that actually Amy's been in conversations. We've had conversations with a few different partners to do have some of the conversations. So what has to happen in communities, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone has already reached out to somebody at the Avon Land Trust to talk about it, is that the municipality has to request to be added to the Highlands boundary. So what Amy and myself and some other colleagues have talked about is we kind of have we're creating a list of like who's going to reach out to what communities to continue that conversation. So if they have not heard from us yet, they probably will soon, especially because what we're doing is we're starting on what we started to do was started on the original boundary and we're working our way east. So Avon is kind of a natural next community that will be hopefully have a conversation and get added to the Highlands region.
And Tom, feel free to reach out to me and just so that you'll have one contact. And like Lindsay said, we're working together with a group of other organizations that are interested in, to start just doing this in a methodical way so that we can really gain that kind of, that we could put that list together and gain that insight.
Okay, but it sounds like this is something that's not land trust related and it's more of like the town municipality, as you're saying.
Yeah, so the municipality has to opt in to being able to get funding, and then the land trust would be able to apply and get funding. So it's a weird, convoluted way that it works, but we're making it work, and we're expanding as we can.
It's another reason for the land trust to be connected with the municipality and, work collaboratively around the land conservation efforts.
Yeah.
So, but certainly reach out, Tom, and we're happy to help get that process started for you.
Great, thank you.
I see the next one, Amy, where it's can a private landowner considering a land trust apply for any of these programs? So the applicant has to be the nonprofit or municipality or water company, but if the private landowner is really interested in helping the land trust, they could certainly help them fill out the application. They might know more information about some of the questions of, what is contained on the land now, they might be able to be helpful if they want to be a partner in the process, but the actual applicant will have to be the land trust or municipality or water company. The
Go ahead.
next one about the Housatonic NRD going all the way to the coast. Unfortunately, the region that I showed you is the region that they're doing. I don't think they're going all the way to the coast along the Housatonic. I think the reason is because the case was more geared towards northern Connecticut and southern Massachusetts, and so they're trying to keep the damages focused on the region where the damages occurred. If they expand it, we can let you guys know.
Thank you. We're just at the mouth of the Housatonic and
It's sometimes when those lines get drawn, you're like, why? I don't understand. But we're not choosing, it's the federal government that chooses the area, so we can't
no worries.
do it
Thanks.
for them. Yeah.
Thanks, Emily. Lindsay, before I share my screen, just to review quickly the CLCC programs, I know that DEEP is developing a webpage that will kind of consolidate information about these programs. Is that ready for public?
So it is live, but we're continuing to make tweaks. So if people do go onto our website, I can find the link. Let me.
Yeah, if you can put that in the chat, that would be great. We haven't advertised it yet through CLCC because we knew that you were still
Yeah.
working on it. But I did want these folks here tonight to know about it because a lot of the programs that you listed, you'll have a direct link right through this one website or webpage, I should say, that will make it a lot easier to find this information rather than having to find it in separate places.
I will put it in the chat, and then, like I said, it's kind of a work in progress. We're tweaking it as we go. But what you can do in that website right now is, I mean, I think the best thing to do is to just search all, and then you can get all the grant programs to come up, and then you can look and see what their descriptions are and see if they qualify. We have a few parts of it that are a little tricky to navigate, so we're trying to fix that. But it does have all of our funding opportunities up there, and you can click and see them and access the information on them, which is nice.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm going to share my screen now and take you all to our website, which I hope you can see. Now, can you see our website?
Yep, it came up now.
Okay. So when you go to the CLCC website, this is ctconservation.org, and you go to our programs, and you scroll over to funding programs, you will find our CLCC grant programs. And I'm not going to go into any detail. We'll likely offer our own workshop around these as we move through towards the end of the year, because we have rolling deadlines. And so there's not that sense of urgency as there is right now to learn about the OSWA, the UGCG, and some of the others that Lindsay mentioned. But our newest grant program, and these are only available for land trusts. So if you're not a land trust, unfortunately, we can't assist with these funding sources. But if you have a land trust in your town and it meets our requirements, then they can. So Connecticut LEAP program, the Land Easement and Acquisition Grant Program, this is direct funding for acquisition. So if you apply for OSWA, your land trust applies for OSWA and it receives 65%, you can then come to us and look to help bridge the gap that you'll need in order to close on that project. So this is one source of funding that is brand new, and that homepage that I started on listed the grants that we just gave out. We gave out 6 grants, over $1 million. Very exciting, and we're really hoping to build on this so that we can accelerate the pace of these land deals even more so. Ricky runs our Climate Smart Land Stewardship Grants, which again, you can find all the information here, but we have, well, we're actually out of funding right now, but we should hopefully have some more funding for implementation grants. So I won't go into that too much now, but it is worth taking a look and contacting Ricky if you have projects that you think could be eligible for that. Another acquisition assistance program is our Connecticut Conservation Partnership Program. That is a program that we facilitate in working with the Federal Natural Resources Conservation Service, and it is an easement acquisition program. And it is one where the money can be used. In fact, we encourage the money, in this case, to be used in partnership with an OSWA grant. Because it is NRCS and it is a federal agency and the funding generally is very insecure right now, we are not aggressively seeking new projects for this program, but we do have money, and it has been funded through the 2018 Farm Bill, and that money has been obligated and is there. So if you have a project, again, you're looking for some acquisition, financial assistance for acquisition, definitely contact us about that. And then lastly, our TAG grant program, which is the Transaction Assistance Grant Program, that will provide assistance for some due diligence expenses like surveys and appraisals and environmental assessments. And so that's a terrific program that I encourage land trusts to look to when they are considering a project at its start or need to finish it up with a survey or other transaction-related due diligence obligations that they have, particularly with OSWA. And then we have other grant opportunities that are listed here. I'm going to put Yao's contact in there. Ricky, why don't you put your email in there for the Climate Smart program? And you can also add Yao. Yao Owusu-Darko is our Director of Grants and Programs, and he runs all of those grant programs that I just listed. So with that, again, you're welcome to come on screen if you'd like, or throw some more questions in the chat. But yeah, other questions, anybody? This is really exciting time to be putting your projects together because the state has funding, CLCC has funding, and there is still some federal funding.
Yeah, so just to confirm, you're saying that if we got one of the DEEP grants that was 65%, that some of these other grants you just spoke about could help cover that remaining 35%?
Yes, if it's a federal grant, you can only combine it up to 90%, but our funding is considered, you know, a non-government source, and so it can be used to help bridge that gap. And we have, I encourage you to take a look. There's pretty detailed information there about eligibility and the types of projects that we're looking to fund. But generally speaking, if it's an OSWA funded project, it's going to meet our funding requirements. And so they're great pair together.
Great, thank you.
Yep. And again, Yao would be, he runs that program, the LEAP grant program, the TAG program, and the CCPP program. So we put Yao's email in, Ricky just put it in the chat, and Ricky runs our Climate Smart program.
Yep.
Any other questions? I can't tell you how fortunate we are to have Lindsay and her team at DEEP. They do a fantastic job. It's a lot to manage with a very small staff, and so and they are really the source of information. So when we are contacted about projects that are have an OSWA connection or a UGCG question related, we refer folks right over to Lindsay and her team.
And we're happy for you to reach out and just say, hey, I have this project. Do you think this is a fit? That we're happy to do that. We're happy to talk about any questions you have once you look on our website. Like I said, because the round is open now, the frequently asked questions are up there, so you can take a look at that. The kind of manual that you would need to do the application is there, so it should answer all the questions. You can clearly see on our website there's a score sheet, so you can see how you would score if you filled out the application and you got all these things. You can kind of gauge what your score would be based on that as well. So there's a lot of information, but anything that we miss and you still have questions, feel free to reach out.
And I did put a note in the chat that if you're looking for an appraiser, we have a list at CLCC. We always encourage you, no matter how well we know these folks, encourage you to get references and really check them out on your own. But, it's hard to find appraisers, particularly after an OSWA grant is announced. because there's not that many in Connecticut that have the skill to do the appraisals for the OSWA program. So reach out to us. The sooner you can engage your appraiser, the better. And look into our if you're a land trust, look into our transaction assistance grant program to help pay for the cost of that appraisal.
Yeah.
I just one question. Is there any kind of like average value of like wetlands? I think in like some land trust meetings we've talked around like $7,500 an acre to $1,200 an acre. Is there any like general ranges, or is it all going to be site specific?
Yeah, appraisals are tricky because it really depends on what's adjacent and what development potential is, and it depends on the part of the state you're in. You're in Avon, I know, so your prices are going to be a little higher than some other parts of the state, and a little lower than others. So it's
Right.
I don't think I could give you an average for wetlands. An appraiser might be able to for your region though.
Okay, so just reach out to them, and without having a specific site in mind, they might give a range, you're saying?
Maybe they might be able to tell you in your region, if they work regularly in your region. But
Okay.
it's tricky statewide for us to have those numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Other questions from anyone? And we will have this recording, and we'll have Lindsay's slides available. Just give us a couple of days, early next week, we'll have it all ready for you, and we'll share that out.
And if you have anyone else who couldn't come tonight and was interested in joining, we have one next Tuesday during the day.
That's right, at lunchtime.
12 to 1:30, so, or 12 to 1, something like that.
We always schedule these during meal times. Why do that?
So you can send someone here onto one of those, or just have them reach out for questions as well. So thank you guys.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, going once, going twice, I'm gonna stop the recording if I can figure out how to do that. And yeah, and then we'll bid everybody good night and enjoy your dinner if you haven't had it already. And any questions, just reach out, and we're happy to direct you to the right person.
You guys have a good night.
Have a nice night.